Hey, this is Justin Harrison. Um, this is my presentation on mapping the world before the world was ready. Santa Cruz, the empire, and the architecture that isn't there. This right here is the map of Alonzo de Santa Cruz and his New World map of 1542, which is oversized and looks like the world is being held together by tape and ambition. My argument is that the map is an architectural artifact, not because it shows buildings, but because it erased them. The buildings are an empty world that Spain can fill. So let's look at what the map actually is. Right here is Alonso de Santa Cruz and Charles V. Cruz was Charles V's principal cosmographer, basically the empire's world maker. This 1542 map wasn't meant for sailors or ordinary people. It was meant for the court, for the king's eyes only, for imperial confidence. It shows a globe of that was half guessed, half claimed, drifting coastlines, and proportions that look like a lung inhaling. This is a map's representation for doing political work. So, what was this object exactly? Um, the map was huge. Three parchment sheets, 79 by 146 centimeters, hand colored, minimal decorations, unusual for the area, and telling us that it wasn't for navigation again. It lacked wind heads, your typical monsters and sailors' lore that were a typical cosmographer's toolkit per se. It's symmetrical, gridded with lateral lines with Renaissance order that was masking the geographic uncertainty. It circulated privately, not publicly, for the courts mainly. Um, the world was basically seen from the top floor office, not the deck. So to understand its purpose, we have to understand Santa Cruz. Uh, this is Cuba from Islario by Santa Cruz, the same year that the his New World Map was created. And this was a typical little creature that you see on a lot of maps. But Santa Cruz was not just an artist. He was a bureaucratic architect of cosmology. He worked at the Casa de la Contracción in Seville, which was the command center for the Spanish cartographic power. Um, his Islario General the same year is far more detailed, and it shows that he could produce technical works if he needed. But this, in comparison, shows that this map was probably created for something completely entirely different, political in nature rather. But its most important feature is what it refuses to show. This is an old map at the top of Tenochtitlan, uh, a Latin building, and its sister city to the north in the bottom one. It's a reconstruction of what it would probably look like today. But the 1542 map, Spain, by this time that the map was created, Spain had already heard of these places from Cortez, describing them as rivaling Venice. But Santa Cruz shows none of that. No pyramids, no urban grids, no agriculture or monumental architecture. The emptiness was ignorance. I mean, you could say it was ignorance, but pretty sure it was intentional. The map reframes the America as undeveloped, a blank spot for European construction. So what is happening politically when this map was created? By the time that this map is created, a set of laws were passed in the Indies when Spain was panicking about exploration reports. This map right here is a half a partial one that is in Sweden, their national library. The final resting place is unknown, probably private collector or something like that. But the map hides the violence that is basically going to happen to the indigenous culture in the near future with Spain. But not by depicting cities already known to Spain. Santa Cruz participates in erasing them pretty much. The map becomes a tool for reshaping what Europeans think exists. Um, and this brings us to how the map connects to architecture. This is a 1562 map of America for comparison, but this is what was already there by the time Cruz produced his map. Cruz's world map was not empty by accident. It was pre-designed that way. The map treats the land as raw material, um, not as inhabited or cultivated or built, um, because you can't impose grids and pretend like there's nothing there. And this is why the map is architectural. It imagines a spatial future for Spain and the empire. So where does it leave us today? All right, so this map as an architectural artifact because it constructs a spatial imagery ready for Spain's insertion. It's like, oh, there's nothing there. I can go ahead and just take over and do what I want. Um, its erasing allows for a future of architecture, like colonial, for example. And it tells us more about Spain's worries, uncertainties, and ambition and overreach than actual geography. Its propaganda is disguised as cosmography. It's architecture by omission. Um, so to wrap it up, maps are not neutral. They build the world because architects touch the ground. Santa Cruz's map erases indigenous architecture to imagine a world where Spain can build upon. It constructs emptiness where cities already existed, and it becomes a blueprint for the empire. And the architecture in this map is silenced. But as you can see later on in Spain's history, it's architecture that screams from behind the curtain. So, thank you. I appreciate it. Like and describe. Bye.